At the start of the decade was eventful is a criminally reductive understatement. A global halt of 90% of all human processes and the forced isolation created a deficit of life-defining moments for each generation. Things like high school graduation, concerts that inspire the next generation of musicians, and even leadership conferences have all either been canceled or grossly restructured. This has created a world that revolves around the fear of not only one's own health, but the fate of their immediate family. This has even played into social justice movements as large protests of racial injustice have all adapted and began to carry masks and sanitizer whilst actively fighting for civil rights. Due to the nature of the virus itself, individual hobbies have begun to emerge as the only option to keep ourselves afloat while the world quite literally crumbles in front of us. Skating became my escape very quickly during the pandemic. It has always been a sport of individuality. Every trick is fundamentally the same, but the natural flair of a different person on the board is what kept me getting back on. I could do it my own way and shut the craziness of the world out for a while as I rolled through a parking garage. Another major change was the shutdown of last-minute plans that make college the most memorable parts of one's life. As a member of Mason's housing staff, I saw the ease of weaving a floor of strangers into a family melt away as everyone was forced into their own caves and common rooms were locked off to avoid large groups gathering in unsupervised ways. That small change created a ripple of anxiety and social ineptitude that will continue outward on a macro scale. Across the many generations that experienced the full brunt of the pandemic lockdown, the older generation had the hardest time. Senior citizens, often the most people who have the free time and the resources to enjoy a day at a time, were oftentimes the persons that were at most at risk of sicknesses affecting them. This instance, however, forced them to stay inside at risk of their own health for nearly a year. My own grandfather, actually, I haven't seen him since 2019, and any other time I have seen him, it's been virtually, and if he's outside of his own home, it's with my mother. To go into the next generation after that, the healthcare needs of the pandemic called my mom into overdrive. As a nurse, she ate, slept, and breathed COVID response protocols, as well as sharing information on watch signs for the virus itself. To relate it more to my own age group, but beyond just college students, going out with friends has become more like FaceTime calls to watch UFC fights. Within my own friend group, one of the last times we got to hang out before lockdown closed campus was to go get our nose pierces together. Tattoo and piercing shops don't even allow entry without an appointment nowadays. Services, goods, technology were affected by the shutdown. I can only hope that the kids growing up in this time get the childhoods they were robbed of restored, and the history chapter on 2020 for our future generations is light on the homework. With the advent of vaccines coming along at the steady pace that they've been becoming increasingly available, one can hope that the pandemic and all of the necessary symptoms of it are soon to be things of the past. One can only hope that the vaccines begin to do their job and herd immunity as the vaccines become more widespread will contribute to the ability of the world at large to be able to get back to some sense of normalcy. Obviously, there are quite a few things that will never really be the same, just based on the simple fact of you don't know how dirty things are until somebody starts to clean them. So I think after the pandemic, there will be a very large amount of changes to the world at large. But for the most part, I just can't wait to get back to enjoying my 20s and really seeing where my life takes me and kind of just creating the world that I want for myself.